Okay, uh, so welcome for anyone that's watching. I decided that I wanted to try out streaming. Um, Not knowing exactly where to start, I decided to go with a old game that I had played, years and years ago. Um, really always thought that it had a lot of potential. Quite enjoyed it, though it's been several years since I've last played. I think about 2 or so. I did. You can see that, way back when, I did have several characters. But I decided that for the purposes of this stream, I'm going to go ahead and start with a new character. Just to try out some of the new features, see what I think about the changes, see how much I remember. Just kind of get those nostalgia again. For the purposes of trying stuff out, I'm not going to get any new twinked items. I'm not going to go with a build. The most I'm going to do is come up with a character concept, specifically a class that I've always wanted to try that they introduced after I stopped playing, the Warlock, and I'm not going to look at feats, just kind of go off of memory. I'm probably going to be absolutely horrible, but that's fine. One of the things about DDO is that it is quite good at letting you play badly. There seems to be a lot of stuff designed to work at the highest levels, but at the same time, there's a lot of stuff that is designed to any idiot can get to max level, and with the reincarnation system, you can't really mess up a build that badly because all you need to do is run a couple of missions and true reincarnate. So we're going to go with the Warlock. And they've actually introduced several races. As you can see, there's a bunch that I don't own. For the purposes of this stream, I decided to buy Dragonborn because I always liked the concepts of them in 3.5, but never was able to play one. And of course, this is where my lack of information starts to show. If I remember correctly, the Dragonborn, or the Warlock is charisma based and dexterity. So what we're going to do is we're going to go 16, 14. I do remember Constitution's pretty important in this game. We'll go decent in Wisdom. We'll go 18 Charisma. And then, sure, 12 Wisdom. Will saves are always useful. So I have 8 points. Of course, because we're using the 3.5 system, you have quadruple starting points at level 1. So really it means that I can have 2 skills that I max out. I don't remember much about Warlocks. Oh, hey, look, helpful. Concentration enables the Warlock to continue casting. Okay, so concentration is going to be useful. And of course, Spellcraft is the meta skill that was introduced relatively late into when I started playing. Basically, while it was used mostly for memorizing new spells, and a little at the epic levels in the original 3.5. In this case, it's used primarily for increasing your spell damage. I'd like to use Magic Device, especially for a Charisma class, but since I'm not planning on doing any twinking or anything like that, I doubt I'm going to have much use for Magic Device. So, I may regret that later, but we'll see what happens. So I have the feat, racial bonus feat, and the class feat. Of course, if we're going ranged, I believe that, if I can remember from my 3.5 days, the meta magic's just considered like a ranged attack. So sure, we'll go point blank shot. For our racial feats, we basically get to choose what color we want to be. I've always been a bit partial to black. Acid does get a little less useful once you hit the epic levels. because there's a really uh, there's a lot of demons that you wind up fighting. However, up till epic levels, you don't really run into many demons. It's mostly devils. So doing acid is a pretty fair bet. Along the same lines, we have to choose what pact we want to do for the Warlock. So we've got Fey, which gives us extra sonic damage. Always a good idea, but makes it so that well, let's just read it. So Fey, your patron is a lord or lady of the Fey, creature of legend who holds secrets that were forgotten before the mortal races were born. This being's motivations are often inscrutable, sometimes whimsical, and might involve a striving for greater magical power or the settling of age-old grudges. So it's a toggle you can turn on and off. If you turn it on, your Eldritch Blast deal extra sonic damage, +1, plus an additional 1d4 per 2 Warlock levels. However, the damage is halved on a successful Reflex saving throw. Reflex is a commonly resisted type, but the DC is relatively high, 19 plus Charisma mod plus Evocation bonuses. I know DDO's fairly Monty Hall in terms of how it compares to pen and paper, but I don't remember how decent that DC is. Like right off, it seems to be the equivalent of a level 9 spell, but I don't know if that's good or not. So let's look at Fiend. So you've made a pact with a fiend from the lower planes of existence, a being whose aims are evil. Even if you strive against those aims, such beings desire the corruption or destruction of all things, ultimately including you. It's another toggle. So you do +1 fire damage, plus 1d4 per 2 Warlock levels. Damage is halved on a successful Fortitude saving throw versus the same DC. Oh, hey, I didn't even notice. Can't be activated or trained if good. Cannot be good if trained. So I usually go with true neutral in a game like this, so that's probably not going to be a big problem. And then, of course, Great Old Ones. Another toggle, your patron is a mysterious entity whose nature is utterly foreign to the fabric of reality. It might come from far realms, the space beyond reality, or it could be one of the elder gods known only in legend. Its motives are incomprehensible to mortals, and its knowledge so immense and ancient that even the greatest libraries pale in comparison to the vast secrets it holds. So another toggle, same DC, except this time it adds acid damage, and it's a will saving throw. Will tends to be one of the lower saving throws, just in general, so that's not a bad plan, and the acid kind of goes with the draconic ancestry, so we'll go ahead and go with the Great Old Ones. I wish I could see... Oh, well there's my Eldritch Blast. So, Blast Shapes, Ranged Magic Bolt, does force damage naturally, so I can always turn off the toggle and go back to a pretty much universally unresisted type. Treated as an evocation spell and damages skills with 130% spell power, so it scales better than most spells. It is also affected normally by spell critical and spell critical damage. Warlock levels grant feats that increase this damage. It's not affected by meta magic feats, so that's good. Nor by melee and ranged feats. Oh, then I should probably go away from point blank shot. Medium armor, heavy armor, and shields can cause Eldritch Blast to suffer arcane spell failure. Okay, so if it's not affected by meta magic feats, and it's not affected by ranged feats, I should probably trade out point blank shot, which makes sense. I don't want to be using medium armor or heavy armor, so taking proficiency doesn't help. Shields, also unlikely to be a good idea. So I could go with the defensive feat. Toughness is always a classic. If I remember correctly, it's a little better than it was in pen and paper because, well, you do get your classic plus 3 hit points, 1 for each additional level, so 22 hit points at level 20. It usually will also unlock extra enhancements, but I don't know if that's still a thing. So proficiencies, I'm not going to worry about. I could go with skill feats, skill focus, spellcasting feats. Combat casting might not be a bad idea. It gives me a boost on concentration checks, which I'm training in concentration. Mental toughness, extra spell points, always a good idea. I could do spell focus evocation, which should help my Eldritch Blast DC. Could go spell penetration. I don't. Does it have? I don't know if it has to go through spell resistance. So at this point, we'll just go ahead and do toughness. Extra hit points is never a bad idea. Especially, you know, coming back to the game, I have no idea what I'm doing. Okay, so I do have normal spells besides just my standard Eldritch Blast. So we've got Bane, Cause Fear, Charm Person. Oh, I only get one. Yeesh. So Shield might not be a bad idea. Crowd Control is always useful. Ooze Puppet is fun, but super situational. Night Shield's always been one of my favorite because it's a resistance boost. Doesn't stack with other resistance items, but it can be super useful at the low levels before you get a resistance item. Master's Touch lets me use any weapon. Super handy, except I'm going to be using Eldritch Blast. Jump's useful. False Life is handy because it gives me some temporary hit points. Detect Secret Doors could be useful because I don't have Perception, or I guess Spot in this version. But you know what? We're going to go with the classic Summon Monster. Or I could go... So it recommends Mage Armor. I should probably look at that. Let's see. You may want to choose Mage Armor. The Warlocks are limited to learning only one spell at level 1, and only ever learn 2 spells from each level of spell to supplement Eldritch Blast. Oof. Although they can be granted additional spells from the Choice of Pact, or from enhancements, Warlock spells generally don't deal damage directly, as they rely on Eldritch Blast and enhancements for dealing damage. So Summon Monster... Yeah... I probably don't want to do that because I'm going to outlevel that relatively quickly. Expeditious Retreat can be easily duplicated with an item. Grease is, of course, the greatest buff in the game, so I might want to consider that one. No, that's it. Resist Energy. Resist Energy has always been one of my favorite spells. It totally will save your life and completely trivialize certain encounters. There's one dungeon in particular I remember being absolutely ridiculous unless you had Resist Energy, and then it became a joke because it was full of fire elementals. Okay, so we can create the character. We're going to go neutral. Name, I'll have to think about that. So we want a beard. It's kind of weird. Let's go with tentacles. That seems to fit the Eldritch. Or I could do tentacles and spikes. Cthulhu. I like that one. Frills. I can't really tell because it seems to be setting up behind something. So just go with that. Tines is what's on your head. Lots and lots of spikes. I could do no tines. Kind of like that one. So for eyes, he's an old god, so we're going to want shifty eyes. That one just looks weird. Let's see. Let's go with that one. We can do green for acid. And speaking of which, we're going to want black scales, because, you know, black heritage. For a name, let's go with Travis. McThreed. Because sure, why not? Okay. Name is taken. I don't even know how. It's always the worst part of starting a new game. Spend forever trying to think of a good character name. Goes up in smoke. Bread. McDuck. Bread's taken. Okay. Giuseppe. Duck. Yosef. Let's go with Duck. I like Duck. James Duck. Timothy Duck. And of course, the problem just becomes compounded in the older games. I've seen a couple of games that tend to get away from this problem. Specifically, like Champions Online, you'll just have your account name, and then all of your characters are considered sub, which still has some of the problems in terms of the account name, but it does fix the problem of if you have 6 characters, you're taking up 6 names. So let's go with Reginald Von Duck. Nope. New first name. Dagom Duck. That one's taken? Oof. Dagon. There's no way that one's not taken. There we go. I had to do the bastardization, where I just added an extra letter at the end. But Dragon, I kind of like. It's a combination of dragon and Dagon from Call of Cthulhu, or you know, the Call of Cthulhu mythos. I don't think he was actually mentioned in that particular book. Okay, now I believe we'll start with the tutorial. Oh, this is not the tutorial I was expecting. Okay. Now I'm going to cheat here a little. because the UI is just always painful. Um, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to borrow the UI from one of my other characters. But it didn't borrow all those hotkeys. Bugger. Okay. That's cool. So you actually do like a claw attack rather than a punch. Oh! You know what? Okay, so my Eldritch Blast is 1. My Great Old One packed. Let's go ahead and activate that. Sneak. Tangle? What is that from? Do I just get that for free? Let's see. Primal Magic awakens plants and vines to grasp with the caster's enemies. Tangled creatures suffer a 90% penalty to movement speed, a 50% attack speed penalty, and a -1 penalty to attack rolls, AC, and reflex. A successful reflex save negates the effect. Tangled creatures may leave the affected area to escape its effect or attempt to make a strength check. Every 2 seconds to negate. Area of effect fire spells will destroy these vines and free any entangled creatures. Corporate creatures and oozes are naturally immune. Fire elementals and other fire creatures are immune because they burn through the plants. Okay, so it's kind of like web, except worse because it doesn't stop them completely. A little better because it actually reduces their attack speed as well. It gives them some debuffs. Okay, I guess I have to take that one. Not going to bother with crafting. I know that I had crafting before. Okay, so what I'm going to do then is, I think I have this because I'd unlocked them with my old account. So I could start at level 7, and that's probably the smart thing to do. But I want to do this from the beginning, so I'm going to go back to level 1. So this is all a dream.
You find yourself waking on the shore of Flotsam.
Okay.
Memories of a large white dragon striking your ship come flooding back.
Oh, it's a permanent buff. Your ancestry is linked to black dragons of a bygone era. You gain a stacking bonus to acid damage resistance equal to your character level. Oh, that's nice. Choice also selects the element you will gain bonus with in the Dragonborn racial enhancement tree. Okay. So basic movement, hints pop up. Simple enough.
Speak to me.
So left click to talk. Let's see. Oh yeah, were you the one on the ship that got attacked by the dragon? You're the first survivor we've seen, and sailors been washing up for hours. Are you looking for survivors or looting bodies? Now don't go blaming a poor rogue for making a living. Besides, I didn't take nothing from you. You got nothing worth taking. Yes, I seem to have misplaced my belongings. It's right dangerous to walk around without a blade. For my good deed today, I can give you something back at the camp.
What the halfling said was true. No one but you made it to the island alive.
This way. Follow
It
me.
may be worth following this rogue. For now.
Okay. Oh, you know what? I even started doing it without realizing it. So I had set it for T and it locks your mouse, so instead of my cursor moving around, it's just the circle there. It's actually super duper useful for trying to do ranged combat, because wherever that cursor is where you're going to shoot.
Here we are. So you want a weapon or not?
So some potions are always nice. Yeah, talk to an NPC, looting items. I just use the E key. Depends on what you want. Which one do I want? Great Axe, Heavy Mace, Longsword, Quarterstaff. What am I proficient in? Efficiencies. So simple. So I think Quarterstaff's the only one.
Go ahead. Give it a few swings.
Oh, did I already take one? A Rapier, which I am not proficient in.
Go ahead. Give it a few swings.
As you take hold of the weapon, feeling its balance, you can't help but notice this Jeets has more he wants to say.
Okay, let me try out another weapon. Let's go with quarterstaff. So this is a multi-quarterstaff. It's pretty basic. Actually, it's worse than basic. It's 1d6 minus 1. Nice. Pre-purchase ticket. I'm not going to worry about that. I think that's from when I bought the expansion years and years ago. Free reroll, which is always nice. First character, I don't know what this is. But it says the first character you turn it in with. Okay, I don't know what that is. My clothes, I've got starter rags. Not quite naked. But do the starter rags have any? No stats. No weight, so no reason not to use them, I guess. Okay, so inventory with the I key. As you can tell, I played this game way back when. So there's definitely some muscle memory involved. Because since I'm pressing buttons without realizing it. Quest objectives. So this is my quest objectives. I need to speak to him, obtain a weapon, which I did, equip the weapon, then talk to him again. The weapon really suits you, so ready to help me out. Weapon, here's the deal. Salimus is waiting for a cave up the path. Go and tell her we'll be along shortly, just as soon as we finish with all the salvage on the beach. That's it. Give a message to the Salimus. Well, I'm sure Salimus would appreciate any help you can give her too, and I'll make her less likely to smash the noggin when I catch up. Very well, I'll go to this cave and help her.
Salimus is at the grotto. Tell her to keep her knickers on.
Press M to bring up the map. Great. So free money, always nice.
Salimus is in the grotto.
Oh, for those that are wondering, you may have already seen it on one of my other characters. Because this is in Eberron, there is the Warforged. So the Warforged is a really fun race. And of course Artificer, which is a class that started with Eberron when it came out in 3.5 and has since been adapted to both 4th and 5th edition. Though usually not in the first iteration. I believe Artificer was Player's Handbook 2 or 3. It's like the second or third, might have even been 4th wave of new classes. And then in 5th edition, it's one of the only, from what I understand, one of the only classes that has actually been added, since they mostly tend to add archetypes. So now I could jump down. As you see, I've gone all the way around, but that's going to waste my time. Okay. Dungeons. So first thing I'm going to do is I managed to get 5 starter potions. Now this is the tutorial, so it's locked on solo. Anytime you go into a mission, it'll tell you the level, the duration, which even the longest missions are, generally less than an hour. And the shortest missions are usually at least 10-15 minutes, unless it's literally just going in and turning something in. So you can kind of get an idea. DDO is definitely a good game for sitting down and playing for a specific amount of time, just to get an idea of what's going on. One of the fun things was I used to be able to, if I have like 2 hours, I can go in, do a couple of missions, and then call it at that. Whereas some, like EverQuest, when I played that, it would take an hour to find a group, and then half an hour to get to the hunting spot, and then by the time, we've settled into a pattern, it was time to go. Okay, so normally there's a difficulty slider. Reaper is new. I am not familiar with Reaper, but it's probably not for me. Elite is what I previously would usually go for. Elite was tough. You had to be pretty min-maxed. Solo, and even as a group, you had to be relatively min-maxed in order to to even survive. Hard was usually in a kind of a sweet spot. Normal was beyond easy. And the reason for that is normal just uses kind of the stats from the game. Pen and paper. I'm going to lock that. That's my spell components. And the problem with that is the game's very Monty Hall. It's very much get lots of super amazing items super quickly. For example, starter potion of Heal Light Wounds. Heals 6 to 11 hit points for all characters, including Warforged, who are resistant to other forms of healing. That's a potion of Cure Light Wounds. I have 5 potions of Cure Light Wounds. Level 1 before I even started. That's insane for anyone who's played pen and paper. So we're going to go ahead and go into the dungeon.
Is this Selimus, the cleric you were sent to find?
Who in Kyber are you?
So we can talk to her, identify yourself, so I can either give her my class. I'm the Warlock Dragon. A dragon attacked my ship and I alone survived. I then met your companions who asked me to protect you until they arrive. Or, my name is Dragon, and I woke up on the beach to a rogue who most likely took my possessions. He then extorted my promise to be your lackey. I'll be nice, since the rogue gave me a weapon, and go with the first option. Until they arrive, is Jeet still sifting through the wreckage? I'll wring his little throat until his tongue falls out. Oh. If you're willing to help me, I don't fancy waiting around for those idiots anymore. So I can ask, what is she doing in the caves? Is Jeet your friend? Aren't you worried about turning your back to a rogue? Is Talbron your friend? Why is he at the camp and not here helping you? Yeah, I'll just have her lead the way.
She'll surround us with a protection spell.
Her spell temporarily prevents you from dying.
Yeah, so this is newbie mode.
Suffer injuries.
Basically.
This effect will wear off when you leave these caves.
So there's my Eldritch Blast.
Let's be about it.
That's what it looks like without the old ones. So it looks like it's got decent speed once it starts going. But that first shot is slow. Okay, so basically I'm trying to get up the ladder. Nothing really here. So of course, good old ladder walking. Oh, speaking of the Monty Hall nature of the game, for those who didn't notice, I start with 41 hit points. Basically, all characters start with 30, just for free. Not only that, you start with full racial hit dice, so instead of rolling, in the Warlock's case, a 1d6, it's just a straight 6 every level. I got another 3 for toughness, and so at level 1 I have 41 hit points. Spell points is a little different in terms of how they handled it. Instead of having X number of spells, each spell has a spell point cost. In the case of these, Entangle costs 10, Resist Energy costs 15. Usually I believe it's 5 times the level plus 1. So Resist Energy I think is a level 2 spell for some classes. So that's why it costs more. But I have 170 spell points without any equipment or feats in that regard. So I have functionally 17 level 1 spell slots. Of course, there's also a lot more enemies. So it somewhat balances in that regard. And then, as you probably noticed, I took too long in the tutorial. Tutorial is trying to hold my hand. So not only is there runes as you go along, there's even giant glowing arrows. So I dropped down, took damage, which is a little surprising. I had forgotten there was falling damage in this game. So I need to ambush him. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cast Entangle. Let's test it out. So I attack. You can see that it does force damage and regular damage. So he has 11 hit points. I believe I unlocked that. So a while ago, they did a monster manual, which is actually really cool. So what you wind up doing is there's different animals from dragons, air elementals, earth elementals, methods and such. So let's do monstrous. So Swagan. The first one is for your character. So if I kill 100 Swagan, I'll get 300 XP. If I kill 500, I get 1200. If I kill 24 different types, so those are ones that have different names, I'll get 1800. There's also the account deeds, which is 200 types of Swagan for all characters. Or no, 200 total Swagan killed for all characters, 12 types. 1,000 kills for all characters, 36 types, and then eventually 2,000 between all characters. And there's rewards for those individuals. Usually it's in the form of learning more lore, revealing more stats, art, so this art that I unlocked. And then the mastery reward is I'm able to view their hit points. So instead of just saying their CR or their name, I'm actually able to see how many hit points they have left. It's a nice little bonus. So let me see if there's something that I haven't killed a lot of. So Flesh Golem. So in this case, I've killed a few between my accounts. So there is lore, and I've killed about 100. Gotten astral shards, which is kind of the premium currency. It wasn't really used much at all when I last played. I don't know how it's been expanded on. So we'll have to see. If I kill another 6, I get the art. And then, of course, eventually you'll get the XP. One of the nice things about it is you only get so many to start with. So, for example, Iron Golem has no information. You start with the first one, and you can buy more Monster Manual tomes. And they do cost currency, premium currency. Excuse me. However, generally there will be rewards for unlocking them, and that will equal out, if not more than make up for the cost of buying them. So let me see, because it's been a long time. So Monster Manual Volume 1. Really, Volume 1? I don't have that one? Huh. Okay, so for example, this one is 595 coins. I have 2568. Now, of course, that's mostly because I played Buffet before. I took up a bunch of like good deals, $200 worth of currency, just because I knew that I really liked the game. I put a lot of time into it. So I'm going to go ahead and buy it. However, one of the nice things about this game is you do earn DDO points just by playing. Every time you complete a mission, you'll gain favor, and you can unlock bonus things for the different patrons as you go along. So, for example, House Caneth. Once I reach 50 favor with House Caneth, I can go to the representative, get bonuses. Usually it unlocks shops. Sometimes it's free items. One of the big ones, I believe, was House Fjarlin, because that will give you portable holes and basically more inventory space. House Kundarak, I believe, gives you bank space. And the way that it works is that every quest has a certain amount of base favor. So a quest, for example, might be worth 2 favor. And if you do it on normal, you get 2. If you do it on hard, you get 4. If you do it on elite, you get 6. So hard doubles it. Elite triples it. I don't know what Reaper does, because like I said, that wasn't part of the game the last time I played. But it'll also track your overall favor and unlock account-wide benefits, which is, I believe, why I was able to start at level 7. which I didn't. And the other thing is every 100 or so, I believe you get 5 points. I'll have to double check. It doesn't take too long to get to 100, so we'll have to check that out. So, of course, at this point, we've made her wait more than long enough, so we're going to go ahead and click the lever. And she'll come coming. Oh.
No time to dawdle.
Ha! Of course, dawdling is exactly what I've been doing. So, looks like the rogue and the wizard, actually I think he's a sorcerer, have joined up as well. So, they lead the... So, as you can see, definitely tutorial, there's markings saying, hey look.
What? It's empty?
Oi, where's the bloody Suragi?
So, of course, we come into here, and it's an ambush. So it's nice because they do buffs. You can see that Talbron threw up some armor. She casts Blessing. And unlike pen and paper, where the main idea is to kind of stick where you're at and kill stuff as you fight, this game is much more about moving as you attack. Mobility is very important. Of course, you do suffer some penalties to your attack, but overall it's not too bad. Also, I'm getting a lot of 1s. I thought it was like 1d6. Is it less than that?
Are you scared of me?
Yeah, 1d6 force damage. Why am I getting so many 1s? Well, there's... Okay, maybe not as bad.
Such is the fate of evil. Now,
Okay.
let's find a way out of here.
So now we need to get out of here. And the corpses stick around. I don't remember if corpses usually do. I think that might just be a plot thing.
Good work. I see a key down there. Who's up for a
Okay,
swim?
so swimming works like you would expect. You point in a direction. There's a breath bar. Once you start run out of breath, then you'll start taking damage. So I pick up the silver key, and then spacebar gets you to surface quickly.
I knew you'd come in handy. This way.
Now I believe if I am playing a rogue, I can actually pick the door.
I'm weary. Let's take a moment to rest.
One of the interesting things with
Plenty of stamina. I could go all night long.
Why don't you scout ahead then? Just don't
yeah,
get
one of the
yourself
interesting things
Now you're talking.
in terms of mechanics is your hit points and spell points don't regenerate naturally. Like, it's not like World of Warcraft where if your cleric runs out of mana, you can sit down and, you know, rest up. Rather, what there are is these rest shrines and res shrines. So on solo difficulty, which is very, very few actual locations, and casual difficulty, which is also almost never used, they have a 5-minute reuse time. In normal, they have a 15-minute reuse time. And then in hard and elite, they have no reuse time because they can only be used once. So knowing the mission, knowing where these things are, which ones to save and which ones to take advantage of, always important. Though you're going to want to make sure you, are talking with your group so that you all use it at the same time. The downside, of course, being that, like a normal night's rest, it will restore your hit points equal to resting in D&D, which is, I believe, your class level plus your healing modifier. So I've got 30. So I've got 35 of 41. Let me see. My heal's 1, so I might get 2 hit points back. We'll see.
If you're done,
No, I got all of
go
them.
and scout ahead with Jeep.
But if you notice, it re-gave me the protection from death because it takes off all my buffs. It also will restore all your spell points. But of course, you know, if someone just threw some buffs, in some of the more difficult content, one of the strategies used to be you have everyone rest, your wizards and caster types cast buffs on the people that rested, and then they rest so that they're able to have more spell points for actual combat. So in this case, once again, if I was a rogue or an artificer or someone that could actually disarm, this would be my chance to learn how to disarm. But I don't, so I go to Jeets. So I ask him to disable the trap for me. He goes around, he shows you basically how it looks, which is they get a notification, and then they have to spend a couple of seconds searching. It finds this little door. They click on the door, and either it will be a success, which means the trap no longer works, critical success, which the trap no longer works, and something else I think you might get parts, normal, or failure, which means nothing happens other than you just lost your tools, and critical failure, which means the trap door blew up, so you can't try disarming it anymore. It's now permanently blown up. Speaking of which, thieves' tools are no longer, you just own a pair, rather they're one-time use, which can put some interesting options, like for example high-level thieves' tools. You can use them on lower level stuff and it makes it easy, but then of course you won't be getting them off of drops. I think Baldur's Gate did something similar with thieves' tools. Along the same lines of thieves' tools is they've kind of gone the same way with spell components. So for example, I have 100 pinches of fine sand. So that's a level 1 sorcerer, warlock, wizard material component. I just buy it from a vendor. But every time I cast a spell that uses it as a component, or has a material component, which I don't think I have any. No, resist energy as a focus. No? I don't know. Let me see if that takes one. No. So, yeah, I don't have anything at the moment. So, if I did, basically every time I used it, that would reduce by 1. So I can get 100 spell casts. It's kind of just annoying. But it is a nice reference to, you know, actual mechanics, even if people always hand-wave those mechanics away. So Swung and Leak Guard. Now that's the named. I'd rather not be soloing the name, because I've already taken 9 damage. Oh, yeah, and it just cast an acid spell at me. Fortunately, I, messing around, had cast the acid resist buff. But yeah, so I'm now at 9 health.
According to our employer, there's a secret passage around here somewhere leading to Porthos.
So that'll happen the first time. You're dangerously low on health. Now normally I would drink a potion. I happen to know that this is the end of the mission. So I'm not going to. Chests are another really interesting mechanic in this game. Basically you open it and it'll have, obviously this game, the loot's relatively static. It's the tutorial. So it's a chain shirt that I can technically use because I'm a warlock. Ring of water breathing, which is not really valuable. But hey, magic items never horrible. Some chain armor. I'm gonna go ahead and destroy my starter rags. So chain shirt is literally a chain shirt, which is once again pretty good for level 1. So in this case, they decided that even if I'm not a rogue, they want me to learn how it works. So you can kind of see in the top left, there's this spot hidden. That means my spot skill is high enough that I notice that there's something amiss. So I have to use the search button, which uses my search skill.
Passage? Go on, open it then. Brilliant. Tidy lasses.
And that's how you get secret doors. So the interesting thing with chests is that when you open them, it has like a certain loot level, and it can have all sorts of interesting items. Lots of randomly generated loot, but there's also like manuals that can give you permanent stat increases, named items, stuff like that. And everyone who opens the chest gets his own loot. It's yours, it's only yours. No one can take it from you, but at the same time, you can choose to give it to someone else. For example, let's say that you're running a dungeon and a Holy Avenger drops, but you're running a rogue. You don't really need that. You transfer it over to the Paladin, which is a way to get around the like non-tradable items. There's a lot of non-tradable items. Whether that's true to the pen and paper spirit, that's arguable, but it is what it is. Okay, so yeah, hidden doors. So now, I need to speak with Selimus. So now I am in the tutorial village. And now you're going to see a little bit of the Monty Hall. So I had a horrible staff. Now I get to choose a halfway decent item. So all of this stuff is just Ember. So an Ember is Masterwork and does an additional +1 fire damage. Except for the hand wraps, who do +1 acid damage. Once again, Masterwork equipment at level 1. Pretty impressive. There's also a couple of Eternal Ones. I know some people that collect it just because, but I'm not using Use Magic Device, so that's kind of useless. Also, I think I'm not proficient in any of these. Oh no, I can use the Sickle and the Heavy Mace, so I'll go with the Heavy Mace. So, Heavy Mace, I can swing, but I'm going to be using Eldritch Blast. So... Ranged Magical. I believe in Pen and Paper, Eldritch Blasts were touch AC, but I don't know if that's still the case. I haven't seen any dice rolls. I also haven't noticed it missing. It may just be if I touch them, then it hits them with the damage.
Stepping out of the grotto,
which would be awesome. Which
Which
means investing in my dex was useless. But that's fine.
Judging from how it looks now,
My stats aren't too bad, actually. It's a little spread out.
Souls still hold out for help to arrive.
I don't know what's going on, why that is... like, oh, it's telling me it's not in use. Okay. So for those that didn't see, when I turn off the Eldritch Blast, the mace shows up. When I turn it on, it disappears. So this is the tutorial guide, how to bind your character. So if things go, pear-shaped, then you can either run to a Resurrection Shrine, which will automatically res you, the once per mission, or once every 15 minutes, depending. Alternatively, you can get someone to res you, like a priest or a cleric or a druid. Or if you're soloing, too far away from Resurrection Shrine, etc., you can return to your Spirit Binder. So a Spirit Binder is generally going to be in cities. And, it's basically just where you want to put your home base. I'm going to be in Korthos for a while. So I'm going to want the Spirit Binder to bind me here. Korthos Village. And then, of course, you can see by that there's a mission there. Those are trainers. Let's see. I swear to Sybaris, there's unholy wailing coming from Hayton's family crypt. No one wants to check on it, for fear of the Swagan and their croonies. But what could they want with Hayton's Crypt? Oh dear, why don't anyone go down there and see? So the Swagan may have cowed the village, but not me. I shall make sure their evil hasn't polluted the Hayton Crypt. Hayton family crypt, shouldn't you talk to a Hayton about this? Yeah, let's go with that one. My dad used to tell me the stories of the Hayton hundreds of years ago when the Swagan first came. Bjorn Hayton fought him tooth and nail, and when he died, his children fought him. When they died, their children fought him. Oh, Lars Hayton was the last of them. And well, never mind that. He's gone missing. And everyone thinks he's dead, but I know he's still alive. What if this wailing has something to do with it? You have to go and look. Very well, I'll use your mind. I'll check out the crypt for you. Okay. So this is the Warlock trainer. They introduced enhancements. Enhancements is definitely another non-pen and paper modification, but it does kind of follow the feel of pen and paper, I believe. Kind of almost like mini feats. So a lot of information. So this is how enhancement works. So 4 times per level, every 25%, you'll fill one of these bars up. So this bar here, at the bottom. And every bubble you get, so 4 per level, you gain an enhancement point. And you get race enhancements, which is usually the main reason you go with a specific race. Class enhancements, which goes into one of 3 trees. Or, and if you're multi-classing, you can... So, for example, if I were to go Warlock Wizard, I could do Wizard enhancements as well as Warlock enhancements. There's some interesting combinations there because you can reach the highest levels with only 5 levels in the class. So I've seen some, like, 5 levels of Warrior build that have almost all Warrior enhancements, which creates some interesting synergy. Harper Agent is, I believe, something bought in the store. And that's just kind of a floating enhancement tree. So I have 1 point. I can either do race or I can do one of my class. I was excited for Warlock, so I'm going to go ahead and look at one of the Warlock ones. So Soul Eater, Tainted Scholar, or Enlightened Spirit. I'm leaning towards Tainted Scholar just because of the old one. But let me... so the way that it works is along the bottom is kind of your core enhancements. Usually it's a pretty nice buff, and it requires you to have spent 5 points, 10 points, 15 points, or actually 20. Oh wow. Okay, so it's first one unlocks it, second one takes 5, third one takes 10, and you have to be 6 levels. So this one takes 3 levels. This one takes 12 levels, so 20 points, 18 levels, 30 points, and 40 points in the tree, and 20 levels in that class to unlock the final thing. So that's kind of your capstone. A lot of classes already had capstones at 20. This is like your big boost for staying pure and for staying in one tree for most of it. Of course, 20 levels, 4 points per level. Having 40 points isn't entirely pure. You can definitely, branch out a little bit. However, because you only get 80 points and it takes 40 points just to unlock this and 1 point to buy it, you can't get the capstone for multiple trees. So even if I were to put all of it into Soul Eater and Tainted Scholar, I couldn't get the capstone for both. And I believe you might only be able to get level 5 for one or the other. So let's kind of look at what these things do. So Soul Eater, let's see, extra damage, which is nice. Let's see, Inhuman Nature, Fortification, and Poison and Disease, meh. You get immunity to fear, it's always nice. My Eldritch Blast costs enemies to be shaken, nice. Inhuman Nature, extra Fortification. More consume damage, I'm guessing that's an ability listed in there. Eldritch Seeker, crit chance, not huge. And this one's a cooldown. So a lot of times especially for the caster classes, you'll have active abilities. So while a lot of them are passive, this, for example, Devour the Soul, is an active. So it's got a 15-second cooldown. It can be quickened, heightened, enlarged, and emboldened. I don't remember what emboldened does. But I know quicken makes it cast faster, heighten increases the DC, which I don't think actually helps this. Enlarge increases the range, and like I said, I don't know what embolden does. So 15-second cooldown, but you know, meta magics don't affect my energy, Eldritch Blast. So then again, I didn't think they had regular casting. So we'll have to see whether getting meta magics is a bad idea or a good idea. So Devour the Soul, +4 charisma passive, just nice. You consume the soul of your target enemy, killing it instantly unless it makes a will saving throw with a DC of 10, plus Warlock level, which is going to be 20, obviously, plus charisma modifier, which is now 2 higher. The ability is considered a necromancy spell, so if I want to get like spell focus, necromancy would be what boosts it. Its ability works on undead, but not constructs, and other creatures with no life force. If the target survives, then it loses 20 PRR, which is basically physical mitigation, and MRR, magic mitigation, for 6 seconds. Cooldown 15 seconds. Okay, so that looks like just a bonus, what's it called? Like Finger of Death. I'd like it to have a bunch of damage if it fails, like Finger of Death does, rather than just reducing them. But that could be useful on like bosses. I could see that. Okay, so let me look at some of the stuff that it does. So I always like to look at just the top 5 because, you know, I like to look at the fun stuff. So Eldritch Wave, a cone of Eldritch Energy. So like Flame Breath strikes all opponents in the air with 3 consecutive Eldritch Blasts. And it scales better, cooldown 8 seconds. Supreme Hunger, your consume damage. Okay, so we need to see consume damage. Greater Hunger. Okay, there we go. Is there just a Hunger ability? Because that seems... Okay, consume. Ranged magical attack, 10-second cooldown. Your magic consume a bit of your opponent's form, disintegrating bits of them for 2d10 chaotic damage. I'm not familiar with chaotic damage. Every 2 seconds for a duration of 16 seconds. Okay, DOTs were always pretty weak, but that's actually not bad. Other than the overlap on the cooldown. The damage scales with 125% spell power, which is not bad. The effects can stack up to 3 times. There we go. Your energy is also marked with the consumed trait. Stricken. So another clicky. Ranged magical attack. You cause 4d6 chaotic damage and reduce the healing amplification of the opponent by 40 for 12 seconds. I don't see a lot of healing, but that could be handy. The reduction is negated by a fortitude saving throw. The damage skills, Stricken Soul, against targets marked by your stricken attack, the Eldritch Blast, melee, and ranged attacks reduce the target's melee power, ranged power, and spell power. Okay, so this tree seems to be a lot about like debuffing and then doing extra damage against those you've debuffed. Less hate, taint the blood. Like that one's, oh wow. Your Eldritch Blast, melee, and ranged attacks reduce the fortitude saving throw of the target by -1 for 6 seconds. The effect that stacks up to 4 times. -4 to fortitude is pretty huge in a D20 game. A little bit of extra power. Consume sight. You can cast the spell blindness as a spell-like ability. Does cost spell points, but it can activate meta magics at no cost. Okay, taint the aura. So this goes with consume. Against targets marked by your consume attack, your melee, ranged, and Eldritch Blast attacks reduce the spell resistance, PRR. Okay, another debuff. When you use consume on an enemy, the feeding increases your movement speed by 1% per Warlock level for 20 seconds. Oh, there's a multi-selection. Blood Feast. Food for Thought. Which seems to be stat damage. And then I get a bonus. So I steal their stats, which is nice. Burning Blood, which is just damage over time. Cone for my Eldritch Blast. Charisma or Intelligence. Let's see. Your melee ranged and Eldritch Blast do 2d6 chaotic damage when attacking an enemy marked by your Consume. Okay. Your Consume damage over time is increased by 2d10. Your stricken damage is increased by 46. And then that goes into Supreme Hunger, which requires 30 points spent in the tree, so it's going to be, a ways. Your Consume damage over time is increased by 2d10. Your stricken damage is increased by 46. Steal spell points. Crit chance. There we go. Finger of Death. You may cast the spell Finger of Death. Oh, it's a cast. I guess that's true. Devour the Soul has no casting cost, which is nice. So Finger of Death is 40 spell points. And you can quicken, heighten, enlarge, and embolden. Only 8-second cooldown. Wow. That's pretty good. Okay, so Soul Eater is all about debuffs, damage over time, and bonus damage to those that have been debuffed and DOT'd. So Tainted Scholar, activate for 10 depravity. So apparently it introduces a new resource, plus 25 universal spell power, plus 2 bonus to all spell DCs for 20 seconds, 60-second cooldown. You gain 1 depravity each time you damage enemies with Eldritch Blast or spells, except with positive energy. You can gain 1 depravity every 6.5 seconds. Each additional trained Tainted Core enhancement reduces the cooldown by 1 second to a minimum of 1.5 seconds. You can have up to 10 depravity, which disappears on rest, death, or entering public spaces. Oh, that's actually not bad. Like I said, the rest will usually get rid of your buffs and all that kind of stuff, so it going away with depravity, or getting rid of depravity isn't surprising. But the fact that there's no cooldown is quite nice. Gives overall spell power. Featherfall, always classic, especially with falling damage. I'm not a huge fan of falling damage myself. Tainted Lore, Spell Crit, Spell Pen. So I do have to worry about spell penetration. Stanch. 7 depravity, gains temporary hit points equal to 50% of your maximum hit points. These last for 1 minute. You have minus 3% maximum hit points until you rest, which stacks up to 33 times. Okay, so I traded maximum hit points in for some temporary hit points. Interesting. And then I get Crushing Despair. Tainted Lore. Death Ward. Death Ward is actually quite nice. Blood Component. Greater Heroism. Also super useful. Heretical Lore. Not as good of a capstone as Soul Eater, unfortunately. I do like the extra crit damage, charisma. An energy drain is nice, but not as good. Okay, so let's look at some of the endgame stuff. Extra just blank Eldritch Blast damage. Though that's got to be a trend. 1d6 damage at level 5 doesn't seem amazing. Eldritch Ball. Which is nice. It turns my Eldritch Blast from a single target into an area of effect. Though to activate it costs depravity, which I get 1 depravity each time you damage enemies. So it's kind of self-sufficient, but then I don't build up depravity for cooldowns. Mass Confusion. Basically just a charm. Spell Focus. Okay, this one seems to be the castery one. Penetrating Blast. Pierce damage instead of force, you gain +1 base Eldritch. That doesn't seem as good. Force source is usually the universal. I mean, the extra damage is nice. This makes your basic attack seek out enemies. That's nice. And inflicts a negative level 10% of the time. Not as good. Okay, so this is a line. Bewildering blast, so confusion. More packed damage, which is nice. 10% chance to slow enemies. Heighten. Confusion. Ability score. Utter Dark, I always liked this because I played it in Neverwinter 2, and then immediately went into Act 2 where there was all undead and was really disappointed. Okay, so Eldritch Essence stands your Eldritch Blast. Base damage is now evil instead of force. Which is... I mean, evil's nice, I guess. But... is there a bunch of force immunity that I'm not aware of? Because if I remember correctly, it used to be the Utter Dark Blast combined the negative energy with the negative levels. And that's what made it so good. Now it is completely separate. And the negative levels are only 10% of the time. Eldritch Chain, that's nice. Let's see. So Chain's nice, but lowers my damage, reduces the scaling. Stun, nice, but it activates for depravity. Pack damage, Wand Mastery, Command. When you cast spells on yourself or allies, you grant temporary hit points equal to 33% of your charisma. These last for 3 minutes. I mean, I guess that's a nice bonus. My charisma is 18, so 6 temporary hit points for the constant buffing that Warlocks would do. Okay, not super impressed with Tainted Scholar. So far, Soul Eater seems to be the way to go. Let's look at Enlightened Spirit. So Eldritch Aura, Eldritch Blast, Shape Stance. While this is active, your Eldritch Blast changes into an aura. It deals the same damage as your Eldritch Blast to all foes in range every 5 seconds, and scales with 130% spell power. You cannot fire Eldritch Blast while in this stance, but may attack normally with weapons and cast spells. Okay. Well, now that's interesting. So I could punch people. Because I don't think I have proficiency in anything super impressive. I feel like I should have looked at a build beforehand. It's fine. I'm going into this blind. I could go ranged, but I don't have a bow proficiency. I have crossbow. I could just do like heavy mace. I could do throwing daggers. Yes. Everyone loves throwing daggers. Okay. But if it's an aura, I'm probably going to want people to be affected. Okay. Aura of Courage, you gain immunity to fear. Always a bonus. And all allies around you gain a +4 morale bonus to saving throws. Yes. +5 healing amplification, so I get healed for 5% more. Also good. While wearing light armor, you gain maximum hit points and MRR. Okay. Medium armor. Your Eldritch Aura now affects enemies every 4 seconds. I don't know if I want... I don't think I have proficiency in medium armor. Do I? No. Unless there's something that gives me proficiency. Okay, Aura of Menace, 15-meter Aura of Menace, decreasing the saving throws, attack, and armor class of nearby enemies by 2. Your Eldritch Aura now affects enemies every 3 seconds. Okay. And you gain proficiency with all martial weapons. Hey, that's not bad. Celestial Spirit, though, that's level 12. Oof. So that's a ways off. Celestial Spirit, when enabled, you float above the ground. Always fun. Gain feather falling and are immune to knockdown effects. Awesome. When enabled, your Eldritch Blast gain 3d6 light damage. Light's pretty much universal. Your Eldritch Aura now affects enemies every 2 seconds. Oof. Ultimate Enlightenment, 2 Con, 2 Charisma. While your Celestial Spirit is enabled, that's the Aura, I believe. No. Which one's Celestial Spirit? That one. You gain 20% bonus to maximum hit points. Full base attack bonus. Wow. Plus 10 melee power. Plus 10 ranged power. Plus 10 universal spell power. And plus 20 light spell power. Okay. That seems really, really good. Though, kind of later on. I don't know, I'm really tempted to do Enlightened Spirit. Let's see what it's got. Because it seems to be like almost a paladin type. Okay, so let's see. PRR. AC bonus, extra hit points. So 50 maximum hit points. Hit points are always good. MRR. More aggro. I don't know why I want it. Well, yeah, if it's a tank stance, more aggro makes sense. Skills. Shield. Nice. You permanently gain the effects of the shield spell. Grants a +4 shield bonus to armor class protection from magic missiles. That's just handy. Light power, useful, especially if I'm going to 18. More light power. Yeah, I don't know why that's the same thing. That's basically just 6 ranks. Spiritual Bastion. When your Eldritch Aura is active, extra tanky. And allies are a little extra tanky. Resist energy. What the? Oof. I mean, I like it, and the free extend's nice, but holy crap. 2 points for 60 spell points to cast resist energy on 1 target. Second rank costs another 2 points, and it only reduces it down to 50. Third rank reduces it to 40. That's not great. Maybe if the level 1 spells were super amazing, I might be tempted to get 1 rank, but oof. Eldritch Burst. Fire your Eldritch Blast in an AoE centered on you. Works really well with the aura. All enemies caught in the burst take light damage, plus any other effects, and damage your Eldritch Blasts reduce. Its ability shares a cooldown with Cleave, and the damage scales with 100% spell power. Okay. So it's a cooldown. So I can use it while the aura is active. Lights. Fortify Summon. Summons are pretty much universally not worth investing in. Unless things have changed. I don't know. Imbue Summon. And Displace Summon. Oof. Lesser Displacement and Dodge. Doesn't seem worth it. Temporary hit points from the aura. Spiritual Retribution, which is Eldritch Blast, melee attacks, and ranged attacks gain extra light damage. There's medium armor efficiency. Holy crap, is it high up there. However, 2 points versus a feat is a good deal. Spirit Blast. If Fire Eldritch Blast in an AoE centered on you. All enemies caught in the burst take 4d6 light damage, plus any other effect and damage your Eldritch Blast produce. Its ability shares a cooldown with Great Cleave. Okay, so that's just... Is that the same as the Eldritch Burst? Let's see. 5-second cooldown. 5-second cooldown. Uh, 4d6. 1d6. Yeah, seems to literally just be a copy of the Spirit Burst, which is nice. 2 cooldowns, good for area of effect killing, which was this character's kind of special to begin with because of the aura. Beacon, when your Eldritch Aura is active, you gain healing amplification, and you and your allies get a bonus to healing amplification, which is nice. But when I saw it, I was expecting a lot more healing amplification in this tree. There doesn't seem to be a ton. Let's see. Gain a sacred bonus to temporary hit points. Let's see. Activation cost 8 spell points, 30-second cooldown. Gain a sacred bonus to temporary hit points equal to 8 times your Constitution score. Ouch. So for me, that would be 100, 116, 112, which is really good. Like, that is a good trade-off. That lasts for up to 10 minutes. For 20 seconds, you gain a plus 25 sacred bonus to healing amplification. Okay, so that's just the kind of thing you just cast right off the bat. Which is crazy because this one had a similar thing, except you reduced your max hit points. And it was a lot less. Where was it? Was it this one? I don't remember which one it was. Displacement. Cooldown 3 seconds. It'd be nicer if it was always on. But 3-second cooldown, cost 6 points, free meta magic. It's not really bad. Okay. The Enlightened Spirit honestly looks the most interesting. But I feel like it doesn't really get what it needs until the higher levels. Specifically medium armor proficiency. It doesn't gain martial weapon proficiency until level 18. Was it 18? What level does it get at? 12. So maybe I'll respec into it at 12. Because 12 might be viable. Yeah, I could take just melee feats. Till then. For now, I think I'm going to go Soul Eater. Though I should probably look at the racial first. So Hardy, +1 Fortitude. Stat boost, pretty standard. Fortitude. Stat boost. Generally, races are a little less exciting. Because, you know, it's not your class. But sometimes there's some really great hidden gems. And I expect some fun stuff for Dragonborn. So Resilience, which is bonus hit points and healing amplification, which is nice. I do appreciate the healing amp. Hard Scales, Natural Armor, which goes to PRR. Draconic Heritage. Acid Spell Power might be worth it, because that's going to increase the power of my Fey Pact, or the Old One Pact. Memory of Flight. Leap. So for those that aren't familiar, it started with the Favorite Soul, but there was an ability that basically would just dash you forward 20-30 feet. Had like a 10-second cooldown. Monks also got it, called Abundant Step, and it was beautiful. Just handy in general. but more than that, it usually would allow you to bypass barriers. So it was really popular with solos and speedrun. So it looks like with a 15-second cooldown, the Dragonborn can actually get leap, which is awesome. So breath weapon, not surprising here. Discharge your breath weapon, dealing 1d6 plus 3 acid damage per caster level. So that's not bad. At level 20, that's what, 20d6 plus 60? 25-second cooldown, which is a bit high, but that's not bad. Successful reflex save reduces the damage by half. The DC for this ability is 10 plus charisma modifier plus evocation bonus plus breath weapon bonuses. I don't know what breath weapon bonuses would be, but I'm sure I'll see it. And it scales with weapon attack power, or spell power. True power bonuses to my evocation DCs, which might go really well with Devour the Soul. No, that's Necromancy. Might go well with Eldritch Blast, because the DC on that does scale with evocation bonuses. So Dragonborn Warlock might be a better combination than I thought. Draconic Knowledge, Acid spells. I don't really have a ton of spells. Augmented Breath Weapon, so I can have my breath slow, dazed, sleep, knocked down. Sounds good, except whew. Relentless Breath. 8% chance that enemies will be knocked down when affected by your breath attacks. For 2 action points, that's not what I'm going to be investing in. Because I can only breathe every 25 seconds. So it looks like I'm probably going to want to do breath, probably Memory of Flight, some Draconic Heritage, maybe some stat, maybe some resilience, we'll see. But for now, I think I'm going to go Soul Eater. So Inhuman Understanding, melee and ranged attacks, which I don't have, because I'm using Eldritch Blast, and plus 5 Universal Spell Power for each core. So that'll increase my spell power. Great. So I kind of want to know what I want to buy next, just so that I know. Consume. Yeah, Consume. Why would I not get Consume? It's a DOT, 10-second cooldown, doesn't cost any mana. I don't think anything else competes with that. Yeah, Consume. Shoot. Okay. So we've wasted a lot of time just looking at enhancements. So let me go ahead and see. So check mark means that they're ready for me to turn something in. I don't think I have anything to turn in for her. No, maybe it means something else. Chalice means they've got a quest for me. So you're a dangerous warlock if I've ever seen one, but I reckon you got a heart too for helping us poor Korthos folks. You presume much, peasant. Your petty troubles don't concern me. Oh, then I don't get the quest. Yes, I've been called a champion in my time. Naturally, I must lend my strength to the unfortunate. So that house yonder north, that's our storehouse. And in the back room, Lord Lars Hayton put his scroll. Now the good folks of Korthos need that scroll, so someone got to go in and get it. I'll do it myself, but the storehouse has got a wee infestation. Rodents and spiders is all. But here's the kick. Old Hayton put a shield to keep scaly Sawagan hands off his scroll. Only he ate around no more to turn it off, but I'm sure you're bright enough to do it. The village storehouse is just next to the town tavern. Alright. Another quest here. More trainers. Fisherman sitting before you winces, he bandages his leg. What happened? The Devourer cult. They came and destroyed Arcane with crystals. We tried to stop them. Vogel here was hit pretty bad, and I think I broke my ankle. But we got away with just one crystal. Just one. We put it in the storage in Korthos Hall. They'll come back for it tonight, and we're in no shape to stop them. I think it's time this cult was given a taste of its own medicine. I'll protect the crystal for you. Okay. So I'm not seeing the binder. Let's try the bar. Oh, hey look. You regenerate faster in a tavern. So finding quests, if you're looking for something to do, look at your map. Yellow chalice icons are people who have worked for you. When you approach one, you'll see a non-glowing chalice floating over the NPC. Non-player character's head. Taverns. You regenerate hit points and spell points faster inside a tavern. If I remember correctly, that's not a big deal, because most of the time you need healing is in missions. Though I did, you know what, I did hear about that. When the game first came out, you left a mission in the same state that you finished it, whereas now when you leave a mission, you're at full everything. Like all your stuff refreshes. Though one of the things, if I remember correctly, is it lets you change out your spells, which normally you can only do after you've gone, like, rested. So if you've rested, you can change out your spells as long as you haven't done anything. In fact, including standing up. But of course, Warlock isn't a prepared spellcaster, so not as big of a deal. Also, prepared spellcasters are really powerful in this game, because the same way that I've got 2 spells that I can cast as many times as I want, a wizard will have, say, like 6 level 4 spells, and he can spam Firewall all day, every day, with all of his mana, or he can choose to do something else. He can choose to quicken it if he wants, without having to worry about other spell slots. So it's more of a spell selection in this game. Okay, so Bartender, there we go, Spirit Binder. So if I fall in battle, yes, I want to be resurrected here. Hey, tutorial. Okay, so that takes care of that. Oh, that's why no, still same check mark. Wonder if I had to talk to her after I did the spirit binding? No. Oh, help her with the trouble. So that would be this mission, I believe? Okay, so now I get to pick the difficulty selection. I talked about it a little when I went into the tutorial. However, if you're VIP, you can pick any difficulty. If you are on a second life, you can start with hard. If you're on a third life or later, you can start with elite. But for a first life, I can only do casual or normal. So casual's really nerfed in terms of benefits, so I'm going to go ahead and do normal. Like I said, normal's usually pretty easy, because of the Monty Hall nature of the game, but I also don't have any real good loot yet. Oof. Okay, daily dice. I think this is free loot every day. Let me see. I got XP. Okay.
Coming from deep in the crypt, you hear the strange and unsettling echoes that Kaya spoke of. And by the passage leading in, a grim-faced man glares at you.
Okay. I haven't seen you before. You're new to Korthos. Well, you should be back up to the village. This crypt is falling apart. You could trip on some rubble and hurt yourself. Let's see. You're the crypt keeper? Aren't you supposed to be maintaining this place? Heh. Who has time for menial chores with Korthos impending doom? The Sawagan want to destroy the village, and the only safe people are the ones who join their Devourer cult. Mark my words. Destiny has invited you to join our guild, Tycoons of Tomorrow. I'm going to go ahead and say no for now. At least not before knowing more about it. Mark my words, in a month's time, the only people left in Korthos will belong to the cult. We'll see. But now I need to make sure there are no cultists in the crypt. Let me pass. Okay. So I've got my thing. So when you do a mission, it's got really interesting XP mechanics. So the way that XP works is, instead of getting, say, like 5 XP per spider, 10 XP per skeleton, or whatever, is the mission is worth a certain amount of base XP. So in this case, 313. And every time you do something in the mission, it will affect the multiplier. So for example, if you kill a lot of monsters, you'll get a bonus. If you kill very few monsters, you'll also get a bonus. So you generally want to pick one direction or the other. Traps detected, secret doors detected, breakable smashed, re-entries. So every time you re-enter, the first time you lose the persistence bonus, which is an extra 10%, which only applies to you. So that's to keep people from being like, oh crap, we used up the shrine, I'm going to head out, rest at the inn, come back in. Deaths is how many times someone's died. You get a 10% bonus, goes down by 10%, and then you lose 10% every time someone dies to, I think, negative 90%. Yeah. XP awarded. So then what it's saying is, if I were to complete the quest right now, just, snap my fingers, I would get 453 XP. But I would also get another 20% on top of that because of the daily playthrough bonus. So it does create something of a kind of distorted view, because basically, why spend 10 minutes completing a mission if you can do it in 5? Because doing it in 5 is going to earn you twice the XP.
You notice something strange.
So there's a lot of people not doing the quests as they're intended and just rushing as fast as they can, which is one of the downsides, but at the same time I feel like it kind of fits the pen and paper players. There's a lot of just murder hobos that don't want to talk to anyone, just want to kill everything. So in this case, I have a high enough wisdom that I can spot it, but not a high enough search that I can detect the secret door. It might be, because my spot's 1 and my search is 0, so it might be that it's DC 1, or it might be that the spot's lower than the search, just to tell me about it. So in this case, I can't target them yet. You can target with tab. But because I've got Human Killer, I can see how many hit points they have. Something that the game does interesting is items will be damaged. Normally I'm not a big fan of damage mechanics in anything, actually. But this one does it pretty well, because there's certain monsters, like rust monsters, that will make it a factor. It makes carrying spare weapons somewhat viable. It makes the material that it's made out of make a difference. It can make, like, fireballs and other explosions can damage items in your inventory, which can cause those to be somewhat worrisome. But something got damaged. Okay, so my Battle-Worn chain shirt has durability of 32, hardness of 9 because it's steel. Durability went down to 30. Not too worried about that. But as I approach, now that guy sees me, so I shoot him.
What were those cultists up to? A treasure chest glimmers in the dark passage.
So this is a plot chest. It's got a rusty chest, longsword. Basically, this mission's teaching me about DR.
Slicing through putrid zombie flesh that would resist puncturing or bludgeoning weapons.
DR really isn't something that I need to worry about because I'm using, a caster, a warlock. So I'll take it, but I'll just destroy it. I don't need the rusty longsword or the moldy quarterstaff. They're both the same thing, basically -1 damage weapons. So now there's an archer. And one of the fun things is, you see the arrows flying, and you can technically sidestep them. Difficult at this range, but it can be fun.
Performing some kind of ritual.
Come, dead son of Kothos, rise and do my...
The altar glows with dark power, and the Sahuagin continues.
Okay, so the Sahuagin have snuck in here. They're apparently consisting of necromancers. So he's got 2 zombies, which is why they give me a sword, because if I had taken, say, a piercing or blunt weapon to begin with, then I wouldn't have a way to deal with them.
Using this vile devourer altar to create undead. This must not be allowed to continue.
And as you can see, oops, glossary. So now I have to destroy that, pick up the crest. I haven't done anything, but it keeps track of who's made kills, how many people they've killed, total numbers killed. Of course, people go crazy about that, but that's the way things go.
As you slay these foul cultists, take care to keep your own health up. Another treasure chest. Perhaps the cultists brought it here, but it's yours now.
Okay, and I think...
This heavy mace
Nope.
is a bludgeoning weapon.
So now they give me blunt, you know, in case I had taken a piercing weapon to start with. So my guess is there's going to be skeletons behind this door.
There's another Sahuagin.
Yep, so another necromancer.
In life you served the light.
Another crest drops out as you smash.
Okay, so in this case,
The other altars elsewhere in the
I got an optional. So that's another thing. Oftentimes missions will have optional objectives. Sometimes they're not really optional. Other times they're just way out of the way. In this case, prevent Cragwolf Hayton's remains from being desecrated by undeath. So if I had killed the other guy before he was able to complete the ritual, I would have also gotten this bonus. And it's based on the base XP without any of the other multipliers, and it's given immediately rather than at the end of the mission. Okay. So more cultists. And we can see that there's zombies in there. But I think we stopped the cultists before they were able to do anything. Now this one's interesting. So I can break the sarcophagus. And normally they would come alive. I don't know if they changed that or if it's because I'm on normal difficulty or what. So you can see that I can kind of bob and weave and avoid some of the arrows. So now we're going to try to kill this guy again before, see if we can get that bonus. Nice, so we were able to do that.
must have been to use these devourer altars to act when the altar collapses. A third crest appears. It glows.
I don't remember who the devourer is. I believe it's a necromantic god, but I don't... Okay, so this one's interesting because if you remember the secret door that we couldn't open, this is where it would lead.
There's something odd on the wall, possibly dangerous.
So, once again, you can definitely tell that it's a tutorial. We got a warning because of the spot, but my search isn't high enough. So you can see that there's a lever there, there's a dead Devourer Acolyte, and a chest. So you're wondering, hey, there might be something there.
Sprays out of the wall as the gate slams shut.
And of course, there's an acid trap. Now, on normal, traps aren't too bad. If this was elite, it would one-shot me just from getting close. But that's an actual chest. So it randomly generated some stuff. Blue borders means that's good. I'm trying to remember exactly. So short bow I don't have. So once again, Monty Hall nature of the game. So it's a +1 short bow with a 5% bonus to movement speed, 1% bonus to attack speed, 6% chance to slow target by 50% for 1 second, and yeah, which is crazy good for level 1. There are some rest shrines here, so we're going to go ahead and rest, because we've lost a few hit points. Now, that's the other interesting thing, is I'm sure if anyone's played pen and paper, you usually remember spells either they last a couple of turns, they last a fight, they last all day. That's usually kind of the trade-offs. You cast Mage Armor, you just cast it at the start of the day, lasts forever. Shield, cast it, at the start of a dungeon, it'll last for a fight or two. Haste, start of the fight, if you're lucky it'll last in the fight. In this game, spells actually last for however long they say, with kind of an exception. I don't think there's any 1 hour spells. I think they got dumped into the 1 minute per level. So resist energy lasts for 1 minute per caster level. So because I'm a level 1 Warlock, it lasts for 1 minute, which is why it wore off before I finished resting. Generally, by the time you hit 5, 10, especially by 15, you don't have to worry about it wearing off, because, if you're going 15 minutes, you're either completing the dungeon in that time, or you are hitting a rest shrine in that time. You generally don't have to worry as much about it. So we're going to cast Acid again, because why not? Now, I needed to do that. So now, I'm using a little bit of crowd control, so I dropped the trap at the entrance of the zone, which will let me shoot them. These are pretty basic tactics. And I did not save her, so maybe I should have been a little more aggressive. So as you can see, I killed 24 monsters. I got an onslaught bonus, which means an extra 15% XP. Now, it's not a straight 15% because it adds with the other bonuses. Oh, nice! So killing the altar knocked it up to Conquest, which is 25. So it's not 25% more than the final, it's 25% more than the base. So 531 XP total, or 593 with the bonus, which I believe is actually, yeah, the 20% bonus is after everything else. So that's nice. So I get 593, which gave me another pip. Once again, one of the nice things about the game is because of that enhancement, you're able to do kind of incremental upgrades. If you remember 3.5, there was a big issue with, you didn't get much in the way of changes to your character. And especially a class that had dead levels was just the absolute worst. However, this way, at the lower levels, almost every dungeon, even at the later levels, every couple of dungeons, you get some incremental boost. So it used to be that you had to run all the way out. Now you can just hit the finish button, and it teleports you out. And once again, you can see that I'm at 145. Once I finish teleporting out, I will be at 170. And so I can talk to her, turn in the quest. And normally this would be randomly generated, similar to the chests. There are certain unique items that are only available through the randomly generated quest rewards. However, because it's Tutorial Island, it's a very set bonus, though the items are pretty nice. Amulet of the Brute, -1 int, -1 wisdom, +1 con. I never take that. Amulet of Inner Focus, +1 concentration, +1 will save. Not a huge boost. I mean, for this game. For D&D, that would be pretty massive at level 1. But, it's something.
Some of the braver villagers
So I'll take
tried
it.
to stem the Sahuagin tide, but their courage led to naught but grievous injuries.
And you may have noticed I got Kyber Dragon Shards. You can basically use these to do rerolls. I believe... So there's Kyber Dragon Shards and Sybaris Dragon Shards. I can't remember which is for which. But one of them lets you basically like reroll, you know, change out your feats, change out enhancements, even change out classes. I think. I don't remember how that compares with the Lesser Heart of Wood. I think that might just be feats and enhancements. I don't remember. But what I can do, if I wanted to, is I can talk to her again and repeat the quest. Which I'm going to do just for observation purposes, to kind of give an idea. So, like I was talking about, there's now favor. Yellow means... So I've completed it on normal. So I've gotten 2 favor for the Coin Lords. Coin Lords will eventually give you... Coin Lords are... I think the Coin Lords are the ones that give you inventory space. I was thinking that was Fjarlin, but I think it might be the Coin Lords. So what I can do is I can go back in on hard difficulty. So hard difficulty increases the recommended level by 1. So now it's got a recommended level of 2. It increases the XP. So before it was... Well, it's still the same base 334, but first time completing hard difficulty is an extra 40% XP. And also, you can get a hard streak bonus, so if you run consistently hard missions, you'll start getting bonus XP. I think it goes up to like an extra 50% just on top of everything else. And you can do an expert's streak, which winds up giving you like 100% bonus. Which is, I mean, it's nice, but as you'll soon find out, hard is harder. So I'm going to throw acid. The DCs are all higher in order for spotting and searching. The enemies have more hit points. They hit harder. The traps are more difficult. Both have a higher DC not to take damage, as well as a higher DC to disarm. Personally, like I said, hard is kind of where I feel the game fits the best. Normal feels a little too easy. Elite feels really tough unless you're super metagaming. But hard feels good to me. Though once again, it's been a long time since I've played, and an even longer time since I did it with a non-twinked character.
Come, dead son of Porthos, rise and do my...
The altar glows with
Yeah, so I wasn't able to kill him because I didn't have the damage output.
Kill everyone in Porthos. Kill any who would help them.
So I do lose that bonus. So it's quite possible that I'll get less if I'm not able to do the bonuses.
This must not be allowed to continue.
Even though I get the extra XP for hard.
Appears from the destroyed altar. If you take it with you, it may be useful later. You continue to hear cultists about their evil work from further inside the crypt.
And one thing you may have noticed. So astral shards, which are kind of like a which are kind of like a cash shop currency. You can get them outside, but that's the main place where they want you to buy them. Can be used to re-roll chests. And what that does is the chest is still the same level, but it re-rolls what drops. Generally, only really useful for like really difficult raids that have a long lockout. if you know you didn't get what you wanted. In terms of regular chess, it's usually much easier to just rerun the mission and open the chest again.
You shall serve the devourer.
Okay. Though the one nice thing about redoing this without destroying the altars is I now have the monster mission of unique skeletons. Because those skeletons are named. If I go to my monster manual and look at undead skeletons, you can see there's an exclamation saying, hey, there's new stuff here. So I've killed 4 skeletons and 4 unique skeletons. Or no. Really, 1 unique skeleton. You can also go to the second tab, look at all the skeletons you've killed, how many of each. But it looks like, yeah. What was his name? Hayton? Cragwolf Hayton. He might not be on there because it's showing I only killed 1. Yeah. Yeah, he'd be right there. Interesting. So, of course, the old classic, run them through crowd control. Crowd control is, I wouldn't necessarily say more effective, but it's differently effective than it is in pen and paper. So in pen and paper, if I do, say, a trip build, or if I do, say, well, I throw a firewall, and basically enemies are just going to not go into the firewall. You know, if they're desperate, they might go through, but most GMs are smart enough to be like, why would my character be stupid enough to walk up to this wall of fire? No, they're going to go after the other characters, the squishier ones, maybe teleport, you know, use some sort of mechanics. However, in this game there really isn't that option. So, if you drop a firewall, the enemies will just walk right up to it and sit in it and do all sorts of fun stuff with it. Which is interesting. It makes crowd control both more powerful, as well as kind of less powerful, because one of my favorite parts of the crowd control mechanics is manipulating the enemy behavior. So this might wind up killing me, but I do like chess, especially with a non-twinked character. So I'm going to try just doing +10 versus acid, see if I can survive. Wow, 11% fire absorption. It's not bad, except I don't use shields. So one of my favorite jokes is, how hard is it to, or you know, how do you make your character immune to physical attacks? Pump his AC. If you can get his AC like 5-10 points higher than everyone else in the group, enemies will never attack him. So I always like to get a decent AC on my non-tank characters, because that way the GM's like, well, I'm not going to attack you, I'll miss too much. And my character is now invincible.
A magical barrier blocks the way, and behind it, you fit the last crest in place, and the magic shield dissipates. The solid organ inside spits out in a venomous voice.
These fools would keep corners shall be consumed.
So that option isn't really there, which is kind of unfortunate. Also, because of the nature of the D20, they've messed with AC a lot. It's now both more useful and less useful. It's not as God mode as it once was at its peak, but it's also not as, you know, where if you're not a class that can wear tanky stuff, just you give up on it entirely. They've mostly just kind of given damage mitigation to the classes that normally are tanky: paladins, fighters. Monks get a defensive stance.
Your bold action saved Korthos and brought the Sahuagin's fell scheme to naught. The treasure chest in the antechamber.
Wow, corrosive plus 34.
Yours.
So yeah, 34 equipment bonus to acid spell power. That'd be nice. Once again, if I used shields, apparently it wants me to, which is kind of obnoxious of it. But the nice part is you know, I was getting some misses even though I don't have a great AC. I'm not using a shield. I don't have a super high dex. My AC is only 16, which isn't, admittedly, that's not too bad for level 1. Yeah, defense chance at level 60% chance. But honestly, I wouldn't expect to dodge much on a 16 AC character. Okay, so like I said, one of the nice things is you get bonuses as you go along. So in this case, we're going to go ahead and you know, put some points into our Soul Eater. Consume, like I said, was the number 1. It does cost 2 points, which means, hey, that's everything I've got. But now I have this cool cooldown ability. I can use that to do air effect or DOT damage to the enemy for 16 seconds. So 8 ticks of 2d10 compared to my 1d6 plus 1d8 blast is pretty amazing. And of course it can be stacked up to 3 times for the tougher bosses. I have a feeling I'm going to really, really enjoy this enhancement. But I'm going to, of course, need to hotbar it. Let's go with 3. I should really get some more hotbars. So we'll turn it in. Now, like I said, because it's a tutorial, I get the same reward. I always like to re-pick up quests because I'm OCD like that. I don't like seeing those blue chalices. Now, I could run it on Elite. So like I was saying with the patrons, I now have 4. So the base of it was 2. Now that I've done it on hard, I'm up to 4 favor. I could try Elite. Actually, you know what? Now that I have Consume, I'm going to try Elite. I might die horribly. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. But this is going to be interesting. So the same thing, 356. First time completing Elite is an extra 80%. So I get 710 XP if I complete it, which is going to give me another enhancement point. I'm not confident about this at all, though.
If you search the wall, you may discover more.
Okay, so let's... Oh, Nyx Cold Ray, that's high level.
You notice something strange about the wall.
Yeah, so if you notice, on hard he had like 32 hit points. On normal he had like 18. Now he's got 72. So the main... So there's a bunch of stuff that scales a lot more. Hit points scale much higher. Melee damage scales much more.
This longsword is still sharp. It's a slashing weapon, perfect for slicing through
and range damage. Traps scale insane. Like, unless they've changed it, which I've noticed in a bunch of stuff that I thought was one way. I'm either misremembering or they've changed it. But I remember, you know, this level trap doing like 40 damage. What? Oh crap. Apparently it was too far away. Fuck. I'm not liking the travel time. It's kind of killing me.
Kill any who would help them.
But man, that corruption is good damage. So yeah, there's 12. Zombie, you can see that he's got a save popping over his head, which means that he wasn't slowed down by the entangle, was able to just walk right through. My save is only 15, which isn't bad at, you know, on normal and hard, but doesn't really do super well on elite. Yeah, they're only hitting me for 1. Maybe, I don't know, maybe Tutorial Island isn't scaled as much. The hit point's scaling about as much as I remember.
Another treasure chest. Perhaps this heavy
Let's see if we can save this guy this time. Try to get a little closer.
Their bones are resistant to puncturing or slashing. There's another
Okay. So we'll do that. Do that.
Red Wolf hated. In life,
Okay, so now he's been hit.
but in death, you shall serve
Nope.
the devourer.
Even with corruption. Yeah, elite's rough. And you know, normally I'd say that's because it's designed for groups. But DDO has kind of innate scaling. Basically, the more people you have in the group, the more difficult content is, which makes, like, piking, which was a term that originated, as far as I know, in this game. And I don't know why it's called that, but I love it. Which is, you join a mission and then you just kind of sit there, or don't do anything. And sometimes it's because your build is bad. Like, for example, you're like, I'm a healing-only cleric. Which, you know, everyone, you know, that's the joke, but honestly, even in pen and paper, a healing-only cleric's just a bad idea. Never be a healing-only cleric. It's just a waste of your talents. Oof. So yeah, you can see I'm taking a lot more damage. I'm down to 20 health. About half of where I started. But yeah, healing only cleric, or, you know, being like, I'm going to specialize in throwing knives. Which is kind of unfortunate the way that it... Like, I really want people to be able to play what they want. It makes me sad that there isn't that freedom in a, you know, game that's designed to be about making what you want. But here we are, and unfortunately these kinds of free-form games always seem to turn out that way. That was one of my biggest problems with Elder Scrolls Online, is there is so much flexibility in what you can make. So many different builds, so many different races, weapons, all that, and of course people just went with the meta. And if you brought something that wasn't meta, even if it was entirely meta but that you picked the wrong race, nope, you're not getting in any higher level dungeons. Shoot, even dungeons that don't require any kind of meta builds, people will still not invite you because they were told that, hey, these are the meta builds. And, you know, that kind of stuff happens all the time. It's unfortunate. It's kind of the nature of MMOs. It's part of the reason I usually wind up soloing more often than anything in these kind of games. Unless, you know, I can trick some friends into playing with me and carrying my stupid builds around. Like, shoot, one of my favorite builds was actually on this game. It was a Solar Phoenix build. So it was 2 levels Monk, 18 levels of Paladin, but it did unarmed, because why not? And the monk had an ability to give a healing curse to enemies, where anytime anyone attacked them, or anytime they attacked anyone, it would, yeah, anytime someone attacked the target with that healing curse, they would heal themselves for 1 or 2 damage. But I was able to get like 400% healing amp, and so he would drop that curse, and instead of healing for 1 and 2, he was healing for 4 and 8, and unarmed or would just throw out the hits, and then you would combine that with his Air of Effect heal, which would heal for not much, but it would heal him for 80. His Cure Moderate Wounds from the Paladin side was healing for like 70 hit points. It was so much fun, and he did so well. He soloed pretty much the top tier content at the time, unless it was a raid boss with mechanics that made it difficult to solo. He was easily able to solo pretty much most raids, but his DPS was low-ish because he had so much else. So of course, no one wanted him in the group. Even my own guildmates, told me that I was, going overkill. Even when I saved their asses and, finished the quest on my own because they all died, or dragged them back to, the Red Shrine, they would still turn around and say, well, if only you had more damage, I wouldn't have died to begin with. Which is just, I don't know. I'm always a big fan of gimmick builds. But of course the downside is, especially going into blind on a build like this, unless someone knows exactly what they're getting into, I would feel bad grouping, because there's so much that I'm doing wrong according to meta. Oh, nice. So I was able to do the elite, which meant that now I have 6. So that's as much as much favor as that particular quest will give me. Now, of course, if I was higher level, I would be able to start out with elite, or not higher level. If I was VIP or on a 3rd life or later, I would be able to start out on elite. So the question is, what do I want? So I could do another tree, but I kind of want the higher level stuff. Less hate isn't going to matter if I'm not in a group. Let's see. Buff, haggle, and diplomacy. Nope. Spell, that's nice. Taint the blood. Your Eldritch Blast, melee and ranged attacks reduce their fortitude saving throws to the target by -1 for 6 seconds. This effect stacks up to 4 times. Yeah. Let's do that. I think I still need like 2 more points in order to get... 1 more point in order to get Inhuman Nature 2nd tier, and that's level 3 as well. Then I need 1 more point in order to start getting tier 2 stuff. So probably Stricken, another nice cooldown. Which does us upfront damage instead of a DOT, but also makes it difficult for them to heal. Extra run speed, which, I mean, I did laugh at it, and I wouldn't want it now because it's, what, 1% run speed? But if I'm using Consume constantly, that's not a bad idea. Taint the Aura is probably what I'm going to want to go with, because once again, just passive debuffs. Passive debuffs are best debuffs. Not necessarily, but I am a big fan of passives. Just because there's only so many things you can be doing with your cooldowns, and keeping so many cooldowns you can keep track of, so passives are always quite appreciated. So yeah, that's the start of the game. I'll probably pick it up at this point sometime in the next couple of days or so. But we'll go ahead and call it here.